Francisco and I are fraternity brothers. This past semester, we worked together on our executive board. I'm currently the president, and he's the social chairman. Being in a fraternity makes for an interesting exploration of organizational behavior dynamics, because there's a solidified leadership hierarchy that includes main positions, each with their respective committees, who also have individual positions. However, these hierarchy lines often get distorted, and it is not surprising. These guys are best friends, so sometimes it is hard for us to get serious. And I've noticed that performance isn't always maximized like it is in other teams that I've been involved with, such as internships or campus orgs. Let me give you an example. This past Sunday, we had our end of the year banquet. The main individual involved in organizing this event is an internal social chairman. However, a few days before the event, we elected a new officer for the position. So I asked both the new and the old officer to work together on the event planning, with the former member taking a more hands-on role, while the other one took this as an opportunity to learn. I trusted that having two individuals in charge would lead to an even better event. What ended up happening? The complete opposite. Francisco and myself, along with other e-board members, ended up doing most of the work ourselves. How did this happen? What was my mistake? Had I trusted them too much? Today we'll answer these questions. We will discuss the impacts of high trust in self-managed teams with high levels of autonomy.
First and foremost, we present our findings based on the definition that trust is a willingness to be vulnerable to the actions of another party in situations where there is some risk involved. According to research by Klaus Langford from Washington University, high levels of trust can be achieved by employees from the simple fact that they are competent, have good intentions, and are honest. And generally, trust does have many positive effects, such as improved communication, more organizational citizenship behaviors, less competitive behavior in negotiations, higher group performance, less conflict, and greater job satisfaction. However, contrary to popular belief, the effects of trust on behavior and performance are not strong and rather weaker and less consistent. Researchers at the University of Washington found that high levels of individual autonomy can become a liability in self-managing teams when that level of trust is high and little monitoring takes place. At first hand, these findings may seem a bit counterintuitive given the positive connotations of trust and the fact that negative effects of high trust on performance have not previously been empirically explored, even though several researchers have suggested that high trust could have a downside. Furthermore, it is important to note that the present finding is described by Langford to be an interaction effect. Too much trust was harmful only in self-managing teams characterized by high levels of individual autonomy. The practical implication described by the researchers is essentially that a lack of monitoring can be naive regardless of levels of trust, and that a little skepticism never hurt anyone or any team.
So taking into account everything Francisco just mentioned, one could argue that we function as one large self-managed team. It therefore seems that my mistake wasn't necessarily that I trusted them too much, but that I didn't monitor them enough. And the combination of low monitoring as a byproduct of trust and the high levels of autonomy that the officers were experiencing were what led to the low levels of performance, and us having to do most of the work last minute. We're all current or future leaders, and we need to acknowledge that self-awareness is key. As mentioned before, a little skepticism about your peers, co-workers, friends, or whatever self-managed team you might find yourself in will only help. Yes, high levels of trust are good, but combine it with monitoring, keeping others accountable, checking in, or however you might call it, because this will ultimately help your team reach high levels of performance.